Well, we're not going to mess around. We're going to get started. We're going to get right into these mitzvahs. I want to talk to you about First Tabernacle Fellowship has a mission. It has a goal, and it has a commission. And we are commissioned by the Most High to do something that's very, very important. And what's important is that we teach Torah. We are a Hebraic Learning Institute. Our job is to teach Hebraic things. The world at large does not comprehend where we are. And in talking about us and our faith, what we believe is totally foreign to them. We are diabolically opposed to anything that is idolatrous and that opposes the teachings of the Most High. Diabolically, unequivocally. We have come, I don't want to say full circle, because if I say full circle, that means we've come back to where we start, where we left. But we've left that circle and come full circle into the knowledge and truth that resides between Yisrael, Hebrew Israel, and their Eloheka, or Elohim, Yahweh. Moshe, the greatest teacher that was ever created, Moshe is a greater teacher than the guy across the street. Moshe led over 8 million people for over 40 years. He taught, he had the first mega congregation. And there has not been a congregation as large as his since. Hebrew Israel makes up the congregation or the assembly in the wilderness. We are not a church. Church comes from a Greek concept, and we are diabolically opposed to Greek theology or Greek concepts. I have to put it in this context because we are approaching something that's very important to us as individuals that are a part of the Most High's congregation. We are part of a nation of Hebrew Israelites who have been dispersed throughout the four corners of this world. And unfortunately, at this point in time, and yet, the nation of Israel in diaspora do not know that they are Hebrew Israelites. First Tabernacle Fellowship, under the auspices of the potentate of potentates, the Elohim of Elohims, the Most High, has designated us to be his spokesman to bring the knowledge of understanding and the knowledge of truth to his people and to awaken those who have an ear to hear. The interesting part of all of this is that we don't propose to know it all. But what we know, and what we know that we know is truth that is associated with the words and the teachings of the Most High, and those words which he gave to Moshe, the instructions, the laws, the mitzvahs, and the statutes, precepts, and understandings of how Hebrew Israel is supposed to get along with him who happens to be the monarch, the king of the kingdom of Israel and the nation of Israel. For the nation of Israel is not a democracy, but it is a monarchy because we have a king, and it is a theocracy because our king or our ruler is absolutely synonymously one, Echad, one. Hero Israel, the Elohim of Israel is Echad. You shall not have any other Elohim beside him. So as we enter into, and we are already in, the high holy days, the month of Elul, middle of August, brings us into starts ushering us into the high holy days, of which on the 7th of the next month, let me put it this way. This is going to be confusing to those of you that don't understand Hebraic calendar. In the 9th month, which happens to be on the Gregorian calendar, September, I'm in the 9th month, right? The 9th month on the Gregorian calendar happens to be the 7th month on the Most High's calendar, because the Most High's calendar doesn't start in the first of the Gregorian year. It starts in the spring. So on the 7th of the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar, on the 7th day of the 9th month on the Gregorian calendar, is the Feast of Trumpets. And the Feast of Trumpets is a wonderful celebration. It's the blast, the sound of the shofar, which is the awakening, the sound of the awakening. It comes on the precipice of a very significant and important day that occurs every year in the 7th month of the 9th month, the Gregorian calendar, which is the 16th. The 16th, which happens to be the Day of Atonement. The month of Elul leading into the month which is called Tishri is a time of reflection and preparation and cleansing, purification, so that you and I can be ready for the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement becomes the day in which that the books are open and the names of the righteous are secured. The names of the wicked are eternally written out. Most High writes you out. If we were in the land, if we were in the land, not heaven, if we were in the land, in the Messianic era, then the Day of Atonement would be very critical to every individual, because by the time we hit there, if you hadn't made, we use this terminology, making your calling and election sure. That's across the street, but it's a good one to use. If you haven't firmed up your relationship with the Most High and understand the nature of walking with Him in His way, in His kingdom, and you oppose His way, then you're defined as wicked, and then you're forever eternally written off. There's no coming back from that. These mitzvot that I'm sharing with you, the majority of them are mitzvot that can only be fulfilled in the land. But the ones that we can do, that we don't do, or that is not being done by Hebrew Israel, whoever they are, that they don't know that they are, is expended to them on the basis of something that's very important, that has always been a part of Israel, and that happens to be grace and mercy. In this exile, there are a lot of these mitzvot, commandments, statutes, laws, instructions, rules that we cannot fulfill because of where we are. However, as I've explained before, it's very important that we know them. And the reason why it's important that we know them is because we are made up of a constitution of three pieces, three parts. We're made up of body, soul, spirit. The body is only the house that holds and that contains the soul and the spirit, which cannot be seen. The spirit belongs to the Most High. So when the house demises and it goes away and it no longer exists, the spirit goes back to the Father who gave it, the house goes back to the dust, and the soul, which is your soul, which is also synonymous with your heart, is who you are. I'm looking at your heart. I'm looking at your house, rather. But your house doesn't define who you are. Your soul defines who you are. Out of the abundance of the heart doth the mouth speak. Out of the abundance of the soul is the expression of who you are. Your soul defines whether you're a good soul or a bad soul. Your soul defines really who it is that you are. And your soul is something that never, ever dies. It never dies. It is something that the Most High, for the righteous, maintains after the house is demised in a state of limbo, awaiting a resurrection or a revivification from the dust, in which that the soul is reconnected with the body, the new body that He gives you. Now, the new body that He's going to give you is going to look like the one that you have now. So the only difference is that new body will not be conflicted with pain. It won't be conflicted with disease. It won't be conflicted with all the things that we are dealing with in this life. It will be new. New body. Fresh body. Fresh body. Same Same. You'll look like you look now. I'll look like I look now, but it'll be a new body. Won't have anything wrong with it. We will be revivificated or revived in the land. So here's how this works. You've seen Star Trek. Well, the Most High formulated Star Trek before Star Trek ever thought about beam me up. When the soul reconnects with its body, it will be reconnected in the land where the Most High has said and He has promised that He would bring the nation of Hebrew Israel back to the land in that day. So when you read in Scripture and it says in that day is always a reference to the Messianic era and the redemption of Israel back to the land. As I've explained to you before, redemption is quantitative. You can quantitate redemption. Redemption is something that is visible. You can see it. It will happen. You can explain it. The other redemption is not quantitative. You really can't explain it because when you ask you the question, well, what have you been redeemed from? You can't really give me a positive, any kind of answer to explain that. I can explain my redemption because the Most High redeemed Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim. He redeemed Israel out of the exile of the first exile under the Babylonian rule. He redeemed Israel out of the Syrian exile. So it's quantitative. You got something you can talk about. So therefore, as we talk about the mitzvot, while they may seem somewhat boring to those who don't understand, they are critical to the nation of Israel. Israel is a nation of people, and I'm not talking about that sliver of land over in the east. That sliver of land over in the east is too small. It can't even begin to hold what the Most High has promised the nation of Israel that He expelled out of the land. So now we got to ask ourselves another little question that pops up and comes to mind all the time when we talk about the motherland, going to the motherland. Why is it called the motherland? And when we talk about the motherland, what land are we talking about? Are we talking about the sliver in the east? Or are we talking about that great big body of earth that sits out there that's called Africa? Africa is the motherland. Africa is the land in which that the creation of man was formulated, where the Most High first created man and established it as His land. In that land, there is a portion of land in that land that He has designated specifically that is His, and that cannot be sold, can't be given away, can't be done anything with, and right now it's sitting in perpetuity awaiting for the redemption of Israel out of this diaspora. Why are the mitzvot important to us now? You say, well, we can't do them, but why are they important? Because it is the intellect of your soul that is connected to your mind. It is the intellect of your soul that absorbs in, it sponges in. It's the hard drive. It's the hard drive that makes you and I function, and makes us and gives us understanding. So when righteousness is written on the hard drive of your mind, it's written on the hard drive of your soul. When you and I are revocated in the land and our soul reconnects with a body, that hard drive is going to be reignited, and it's going to be started. Reignite, started all over again, and everything on it's going to rev up. And the things that we're learning now in this life, are going to resonate to you and I when we get in the land. The difference between now and then is that the clarity of these mitzvot will start to make sense because we will be hearing them taught by the experts of Torah. I suspect, this is me talking. I suspect that once again, the teacher of teachers will be sitting and standing in his place. Glory to the Most High, teaching Torah to Israel as he taught Torah to Israel in the beginning. Why is that? Why do you think I can say that? Because the Most High is what? He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And we can read through Scripture where he has repeated himself over and over and over again. So the excitement of getting to a place of understanding what Torah is and the significant importance of it resonates in my mind as the rabbi, and it is my job as a rabbi in Kohen to do what Moshe did, and that is to do what? Teach Torah. Everything else outside of that becomes a historical compilation of the life of Israel as Israel is being given these laws, mitzvot, and precepts and things in order to live by. Why are they important to us? Because they are the governance of the kingdom. They are the rule of the kingdom and the king. So if they're the rule of the kingdom of the king, and I'm a subject to the king and I'm his wife, one, I'm a nation, two, it only stands to reason that I need to understand my lifestyle and how I'm supposed to function with this wonderful, 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 wonderful spirit that is all wise and has given us such laws and rulings that are as wonderful as this that we can live by. So we are a teaching institution, not a preaching institution. We're going to go over definitions again because definitions are important. Because if you read Psalms 119, I had another interesting conversation this week with a dear soul, and they don't get it. I live by the word of God and His words, and I'm going, okay. You don't keep the Sabbath. You're a sun worshiper, and you don't have a clue, not the first inkling, what the Most High has given us that gives us life. Oh, He died that I might have life. No. The Most High said, these words that I'm giving to you, they are life to you. So these mitzvot, these precepts, teachings, rules, instructions, laws, dictums, commandments, a general rule intended to regulate behavior or thought. Our thoughts have to be regulated by these precepts, laws, the commandments, regulations, rulings, directives, the system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members, which it may enforce by imposition of penalties. So these mitzvot that we're talking about, our inaction of not applying the ones that we can while we're in exile, they come with penalties. And if we're in the land, they come with severe penalties. The kind of severe penalties that you just cease to exist. There's a question that I asked a young man last week. And I asked this question: what pleasure, I want you to think about this, what pleasure does an absolute, all-existent, wise Elohim have in enjoying the eternal suffering of what he created? What pleasure would he have in that? What pleasure would he have in taking the soul that he has created and putting it in a place where it is eternally subjected to physical fire, damnation, and hell? What pleasure, think about that, what pleasure would he get out of that? He's merciful, he's kind, and one of the things that you don't know, because you weren't taught and you don't know the Hebraic aspect of the mercy of the Most High. The deluge was something that would say, oh, all those people drowned, they suffered in the water. No, they didn't. The Most High was merciful enough to cause them to cease their existence, that they didn't have to suffer, and the flood just swept them away. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. What animal eats things that are dead? Vultures? But in Scripture, the Most High does not make a mention of how all of those bodies that were in the flood were demised, and the land was purified when the boat finally landed on Mount Ararat and Noah came out. Noah, oh, glory to the Most High. Mm. 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 Noah and his family came out, and they saw no elements of the residue of the past. No evidence of the past. None. We're talking about a creator who is merciful, who is kind, and who is benevolent, even to those whom he deems as being wicked. Mitzvahs, a precept or a commandment, rulings, verdicts, judgments, declarations, decrees, an authoritative decision or a pronouncement, especially one made by a judge. Who's the judge? And he is a righteous judge. So these mitzvot, these rulings, these decrees are given to us, and they're made by a judge. The Most High gave us these, gave us and told us how to carry them out, and told us what the penalties would be for failure. Devarim chapter 4, once again in just reciting and rehearsal, sets out the ground rules that the Most High gave to his wonderful teacher to teach to the children of Israel. And he says to them in his final words, the book of Devarim is a book that is the compilation of a day in the life of Moshe and in the life of Israel. We read it over a couple of days, but this is in the day. Moshe met with them on the day that he was going to the mountain to be taken by the Most High to rest with his fathers. And when we read Devarim, it's the compilation of everything that he said to them in that day. Now, Israel, do what? Listen to the laws and rulings I am teaching you. This is the final examination. This is the final examination. This is the last day of class. This is the last day the professor is going to speak to his students. Listen to the laws, the rulings I am teaching you. In order to do what? In order to follow them. I'm teaching you something to follow so that you will live. Then you will go in and take possession of the land that Yahweh, the Elohim of your fathers, is giving you. In order to obey the mitzvahs. Remember what are mitzvahs again? Come on. They're laws, they're rulings, they're judgments of the Most High. Your Elohim, which I'm giving you. Do not add to what I'm saying and do not subtract from. That's the golden rule. That's the golden rule. Don't add to it. Don't subtract from it. Don't let anybody come and tell you that what I said has been done away with. That's adding and subtracting. I am that I am. I am not a human being that I should lie or that I should even change my mind. I haven't changed my mind. What I've given you is eternal, and it's going to be with you, and you're going to carry it from this 6th day into the 7th day, and doggone it, you're going to carry it into the 8th day, because if you don't make it out the 7th day, you're not making it to the 8th. Look, verse 5 said, I have taught you what? Laws, rulings, just as Yahweh, my Elohim, ordered me, so that you can behave. So what are these laws and rulings about, and these mitzvahs about? So that you will know how to behave. You'll know how to mind your manners accordingly in the land where you are going in order to take possession of it. Therefore, observe them and follow them, for then all peoples will see you as having wisdom and understanding. So now the question becomes one in our mind, where does wisdom and understanding come from? They come out of the laws, the rulings, the mitzvot, the instructions, the ways of the Most High. He gives us this so that we can be wise people. We're not foolish. Israel's not a foolish nation. Israel is Israel is what Israel is, but she is what she is for a reason. She hasn't lost her wisdom. She's just conflicted by the things that she sees around her, and she's influenced by it. But she's influenced by it for a reason. There's a reason why our ancestors, as Lamentation says, has placed us in the situation that we are the victims of their disobedience. There is a reason. And the reason is that the Most High has declared for us in the book of Ezekiel, that's wonderful, that his goal is to prove that he can take a nation that he loves that seemingly, listen to the words, seemingly doesn't love him. Seemingly. Israel loves the Most High. She does. She loves the Most High. But she's conflicted by things she sees in wanting to be like everybody else. The Most High is going to take this nation, bring them back to the land where his name will be one, make them glorious again in the eyes of the nations. The nations will turn around and look at this glorious state that the Most High has brought back to him in this wonderful state. And the Most High is going to stand up as if he could with his chest stuck out. And he said, now, I am Yahweh. I did this. I took a nation that you said I had rejected, brought them back to the land, made them glorious, and then you turned around and told me our fathers have inherited lies. They told us lies about Israel. And they told us because they didn't understand the makeup of the mind of the Most High and the intent of the Most High of proving to you that I can take something that you think has rejected me, make it beautiful again, and cause it to return to its glory days. So, we're wise people. When they hear of all these laws that they will say, this great nation is surely a wise and understanding people. For what great nation, we're a nation, is there that has Elohim as close to them as Yahweh Eloheinu? As where? As where? Close to him. So this is written, this is written 400 years before somebody called Emmanuel that was never with us, that was with us all the time, shows up. The Most High said he is as close to us. So the Most High has never been absent from who? Israel. Whenever we, what? Whenever we call him. Come on, class. This is, whenever you call him. Whenever you call him. And you don't need an intercessor to get to him to call him. The text says, as close to you as Yahweh Eloheinu is whenever you call him. Don't need a go-between to call him. Don't need to get to the Father to get to you. I don't need you. The Most High is close to us. What great nation is there that has laws and rulings as just as this what? This what? Entire Torah, which I'm setting before you today. What's the Torah again? Instructions, mitzvahs, commandments, statutes, regulation, ways. You're a great nation. No nation. Oh. no nation. Listen to the Most High. Listen to him talk to you. There is no nation on the face of the earth that has rulings and laws as just as this entire Torah. There is no nation that can compare to what we have. Stick your chest out and be proud. No nation. None. There's none before it, and there's none after it that has laws and rulings as just as this entire Torah. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that. We begin back in the Helium, Psalms 119, with a het. And I'm running through the whole 119 Psalms because the king expresses all the aspects of Torah within this whole 119th division of Psalms, the ket. This letter represents grace. As we follow Yahweh's ways, he will grant to you and I grace. Verse 57, Yahweh, I say that my task is to observe your words. Not the history, not to reflect on our failures, but to follow your words. I thought about my ways and I turned my feet toward your instruction. I am a friend of all who fear you, of those who observe your precepts. The earth, Yahweh, is full of your grace. Teach me your laws. I need you to teach me these. The tet. The tet is the key word in this series because it's associated with goodness. In Proverbs chapter 4, verse 2, Mishli says, I'm giving you good advice. So do what? Don't abandon my teaching. He's talking about Torah. I'm giving you good advice. Teach me good judgment and knowledge, because I trust in your mitzvot. You are good and you do good. Teach me your laws. The Torah you have spoken means more to me than a fortune in gold and silver. And here's a man that's got everything. And yet and still he says to us, he says, your mitzvot, your laws, your Torah mean more to me than gold and mean more to me than silver. The yod. There is significance in this little consonant. It speaks to the creation of the world to come, the eighth day, and that a relatively small number of people will be righteous enough to merit its reward. Zechariah chapter 13 or 14. Only 1/3. Only 1/3 I'm going to bring to the fire that I'm going to take with me into that final day. It's only a remnant. It's only a small group of people. The yod, your hand, also signifies the little palm of your hand. Your hands made and formed me. Give me understanding so I can learn your mitzvot. I know, Yahweh, that your rulings are righteous. Show me pity, and I will live, for your Torah is my delight. Listen to what he's saying. He's not talking about the history of Israel. He's talking about these precepts, these rulings, these laws that the Most High has given to this nation of people. The kaf. The kaf, which resembles the cupped hand. In the verse of this stanza, David expresses his yearning to be sheltered in the palm of Yahweh's hand during the time of redemption from exile. You and I desire to be sheltered in the palm of the Most High's hand as we escape out of this exile. The arrogant have dug pits for me to fall in. Oh, I know about that. This is not in keeping with your Torah. Obviously, people who think they know Torah don't know Torah. Obviously, people who think they're teaching Torah are not teaching Torah. They're teaching Hebrew and Shoreshims. But the psalmist says, the arrogant have dug pits for me to fall in. This is not keeping with your Torah. Oh, they try. See, I can resonate with that. I understand that. I understand it because what? Folks have dug pits for me, have they not? Those of you that have been with me these 20 years, huh? Did folks dig pits for me? Did they? But that was in keeping with your Torah. All your mitzvahs show your faithfulness. They are hounding me with lies. Help me. They have nearly ended my life on earth, but I have not abandoned your precepts. In keeping with your grace, revive me, and I will observe your what? Spoken instruction. Listen to it. Listen to it. Listen to it. See, you want to teach Torah? Then you better get in. Sister Loretta, I want to thank you. I got to mention, I got to thank you. I got to thank you. People say, what? Sister Loretta, I want to know the mitzvahs. I want to know what the Most High said. Because I want to do what the Most High said. You know how she gets started. I want to do what the Most High said. I want to. We going through them. We're going through them. The Lamed represents the heart, the source of our emotions and perception. The heart is the king of all organs. The Lamed. Your word continues forever, Yahweh, firmly fixed in the Shemayim. If your Torah had not been my delight, I would have perished in my distress. I will never forget your precepts, for with them you have made me alive. These words I'm giving to you today, they are life. They have made me alive. I'm yours. Save me because I seek your precepts. I see the limits of all perfection, but your mitzvot has no bounds, has no limits. Listen to the beauty of the text. The mem. This letter mem represents the word pronouncement referring to the aspect of creation, in that in many ways the embryo is formed in 40 days. Israel sojourned in the wilderness for 40 years, during which the Hebrew nation was shaped. In this segment in the Psalms, the writer sings of his love for Torah. I pick it up in verse 97. How I love your Torah. Think about that. Think about that for a minute. How I love your Torah. I meditate on it all day. It's my thought. When I wake up in the morning and I give you thanks, my thanksgiving resonates within the fact that I'm meditating on things that are about you. I'm wiser than my foes because your mitzvahs are mine forever. I keep my feet from every evil way. I keep my feet from every evil way in order to observe your ways, your word. I keep my feet from every evil way. I'm not trying to do anybody any harm. I'm not trying to destroy anybody. I don't have any enemies. I don't have any enemies. I have people that are enemies to me, but I don't have any enemies. And I don't have any enemies because my feet keep me from evil ways in order to observe your word. I don't turn away from your rulings because you, Yahweh, have instructed me. I have sat, I have listened to my heavenly Father. I have listened to him instruct me. I've listened to him teach me how to be a leader of his people. And I haven't turned away from his rulings because he has instructed me. Not some man. He has instructed me. Because I asked him to do something for me when I started. And I thought it was the thing to do. But I asked him the right question. I asked him the same question that Shlomo asked him. Teach me how to go in and out amongst your people. Teach me how to love your people like you love your people, even when your people are wrong. Teach me how to love your people, even how your people treat you wrong. Allow me to still have the love that you show to them as long as they're inhaling and exhaling and they've got breath in their body, that they too have an opportunity to teshuvah until life leaves them. The noon stands for a person who is loyal and completely devoted to Yahweh. It speaks of being subservient to the will of the Most High. Are you subservient to the will of the Most High? Have you committed to him? The noon, your word is a lamp for my foot and a light on my path. I have sworn an oath and confirmed it that I will observe your righteous rulings. That's a vow I'm not going to break. That's a vow that I intend to keep. How about you? The Mitzvahs. Number 309. Vayikra, chapter 27, verses 2 and 3. To estimate the value of people as determined by the Torah. Tell the people of Israel, if someone makes a clearly defined vow to Yahweh, to give him an amount equal to the value of a human being. The value you are to assign to a man between the ages of 20 and 60 years is to be 50 shekels of silver, 1¼ pounds, with the sanctuary shekel being the standard. This is designated when in the land. This would be an offering vowed to Yahweh, specifically to the temple. A shekel of silver is 64 cents. Times 50 would be in the dollar amount of $32 for a male, $19.20 for a female. And as you read the rest of that text, it designates what the shekel amount is for a child and so forth and so on. You can multiply that number by 64, you'll get the number that's referenced here. Mitzvah number 310, Vayikra chapter 27, verses 9 through 10. The prohibition to substitute the offering. If the vow is for the value of an animal of the kind used when people bring in an offering to Yahweh, all that a person gives of such an animal to Yahweh will be holy. He is not to exchange or replace it by substituting a good animal or a bad one, or vice versa. If he does make such substitution, both the original animal and the one replaced, it will be holy. When? In the Messianic era. Number 311, Vayikra chapter 27, verse 11 through 12, obligation to estimate the value of consecrated animals. If the animal is an unclean one, such as may not be used in an offering to Yahweh, he must set it before the Kohanim. And the Kohanim is to set a value on it in relation to its good and bad points. The value set by you, the Kohanim will stand. But if the person making the vow wishes to redeem the animal, he must add 1/5 to your valuation. Once again, a mitzvah that takes place in the land. $312. Oh, got to put the chapter there. The obligation to estimate the values in the same chapter. The obligation to estimate the value of consecrated houses, verse 14. When a person consecrates his house to be holy to Yahweh, the Kohanim is to set a value on it in relation to its good and bad points. The value set by the Kohanim will stand. If the consecrator wishes to redeem his house, he must add 1/5 to the value you have set on it, and it will be reverted to him. Messianic era. Mitzvah number 313, Vayikra chapter 27, verse 60, the obligation to estimate the value of consecrated fields. If a person consecrates to Yahweh a part of a field belonging to his tribe's possession, you are to value it according to its production, with 5 bushels of barley being valued at 50 shekels of silver, 1/4 pounds. Messianic era. 314, Vayikra chapter 27, verse 22 and 23 should be. The obligation for one who redeems a consecrated field to pay the value set by Torah. If he consecrates to Yahweh a field which he has bought, a field which is not part of his tribe's possession, then the Kohanim is to calculate its value according to the years remaining until the year of Yovel. And the man will on that same day pay this amount, since it is holy to Yahweh. Messianic era. Yovel is the 50th year. 315, Vayikra 27, verse 26, prohibition to change sanctified offerings from one type to another. However, the firstborn among animals, since it is already born as the firstborn for Yahweh, no one can consecrate neither ox nor sheep, since it already belongs to Yahweh. Messianic era. 3:16, Vayikra chapter 27, verse 28, the obligation regarding property declared offering which is given to the Kohanim. However, nothing consecrated unconditionally which a person may consecrate to Yahweh out of all he owns, person, animal, or field he possesses, is to be sold or redeemed, because everything consecrated unconditionally is especially holy to Yahweh. Messianic era. This one could also apply in this exile. If you have something that you're consecrating to the Kohanim, your offerings that you give, and some of you, every now and then, you put something in the offering for rabbi, it becomes holy. It is unconditionally, especially holy to Yahweh. 3:17, the obligation to tithe one's kosher domestic animals annually. All the tenth from the herd of the flock, whatever passes under the shepherd's crook, the tenth will be holy to the Most High. In our exile, this is what we put a monetary value on that, and we call it the tithe that is given. 3:18, the prohibition to sell a good or bad animal that is offered as a tithe. The owner is not to inquire whether the animal is good or bad. When it's being sold, he cannot exchange it. If he does exchange it, both it and the one he substituted for it will be holy. It cannot be redeemed. And these are in the Messianic era, and these are the mitzvahs which Yahweh gave to Moshe, the people of Israel, on Mount Sinai. So when we look at Vayikra, and we go back to Shemot, chapter 20, and we get into the next chapter, it goes on after chapter 20, and it gets into talking about, and these are the instructions or the rulings that the Most High has given to Israel. He gave them to them at Mount Sinai. So we cross into another time, because now we're in the wilderness. You might realizing that Mount Sinai is in the wilderness, but we get into Bamidbar in the wilderness. 3:19, the obligation to send those who are unclean out of the camp. Order the people of Israel to expel from the camp everyone with zarat, everyone with a discharge, and whoever is unclean because of touching a corpse. Now, there's something interesting as we look at these mitzvahs here, because this particular mitzvah is broken up actually in many of the writings into this is one, expel from the camp everyone with zarat. This is one mitzvah. This everyone with a discharge is another mitzvah, and everyone who is unclean because of touching a corpse is another mitzvah. So they count this one here as three. I put it all in as one, and that's kind of how they get up to the 613 number that they get. They add them, but this is all within one text. I told you that the Ashkenazis don't necessarily have it right, as they don't necessarily have a lot of things right. We may come up with less, we may come up with more, but the number is not significant. The number is not significant. What's significant is that we understand these mitzvahs and laws that the Most High has given them, whether there's 613 or whether there's 513 or whether there's 1,013. 320, the prohibition in chapter 5, verse 3 of Numbers, the prohibition for one who is unclean to enter the sanctuary. Both male and female you must expel. Put them outside the camp so that they won't defile their camp where I live among you. Now, I want to say something to you here. There's an interesting thing that happens in exile, and that's happened to First Tabernacle Fellowship in the history of its existence. The Most High is unique in making sure that where he lives is clean. And individuals who are unclean by virtue of attitude and anything else, he himself moves outside the camp. Sweeps them right out. They don't even know that they've been swept out. They have their reason, but they don't know that their reason of leaving is at the behest of the Most High. Because the Most High wants to keep the place where his name. Oh, come on now. Yeah, come on now. We know the Most High's name is in the house. We know it's here. It's in Jerusalem, but it's also in the house. Because we are people of righteousness who have made a vow to live by and function by his laws, his instructions, and his rulings. And I'm not talking about Exodus chapter 20. But we have made a commitment to do that. And so he doesn't want those of us that have made up our mind to be righteous to be influenced and contaminated by those who are arrogant, have ulterior motives, and who's influenced by an evil inclination. And he is the one that knows that. And you wonder why I love him. You wonder why I love him. You wonder why I love him. And in every instance of an extraction from the building, nobody can blame me. I did not put anybody out. I did not. There's only one person that I told to leave. And I told him to leave because the Most High told me to tell him to leave. But out of the 20 years plus that I've been in ministry, I haven't asked not one person to leave. They've left on their own volition, thinking that the Most High told them to go. Now, it's interesting about the Most High. Remember, he's not human. He doesn't change his mind. Okay? Oh, the Most High told me to come. He told me he sent me here. And then all of a sudden he sends you out. Well, he sent you out because you needed to be expelled. The same one that sent you can expel you. And you don't even know the reason why you're being expelled. But he knows. And guess who else knows? I know. (321), the obligation to confess. Bamidbar chapter 5, verse 6. Tell the people of Israel. I said, do you know Torah? I said, do you know Torah? Tell the people of Israel, when a man or a woman commits any kind of sin against another person, thus breaks faith with Yahweh, he incurs guilt. He must confess the sin which he has committed, and he must make full restitution for his guilt. Add 20% and give it to the victim of his sin. What is that about? Well, let's see. The action. One must state in detail what the sin was. Teshuvah must be heartfelt and offer full restitution. What's the restitution? That would be the value of a person as stated in Vayikra 27, verse 2 and 3 regarding the shekel. If you're going to violate me, you got to pay me. If you're going to sin against me, you just can't come and say, oh, I'm sorry, will you forgive me? Hey, I need something. Your confession ain't complete until you give me something. Better figure it out. Better figure it out. See, you see what I'm talking about? We have been teaching the history of Israel, but we haven't been teaching the mitzvahs. Y'all didn't know that was there, did you? Didn't know it was there, did you? No. 322. Bemidbar 5 and 9, contributions to the Kohanim. Every contribution which the people of Israel consecrate and present to the Kohanim will belong to him. Anything an individual consecrates will be his own to allocate among the Kohanim. But what a person gives to the Kohanim will belong to him. Now I got to tell you something. You all have given me a lot. And I know that I'm entitled to receive it. I know that. But on the other hand, if what you give me is something that needs to go to the temple in order to maintain the temple, trust the fact that what you give me is going to go to the temple first. Once again, I can follow the same rule. What you give me, I can give back to the temple because it belongs to me to be able to give as I choose. It doesn't make any sense for me to take what you give me and the temple has a need. That makes no sense to me. It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense for me to take your tithe, which is for the Kohanim and the Levite, and we can't pay the rent. But I'm fat. I'm all blinged up, and I'm fat. Ain't got a house to park the bling car in front of. Ain't got a temple to ride up to. Because you've given me, and it's mine to take. It's mine to have. But it's more important to me that the house where we gather is secure so that we can gather and meet in the place where his name is. That's just how I roll. I can't help it. I got it from my daddy. My father was the same way. My mother and I were sitting talking this week and talking about my father. My father never wanted to be associated with bling. Never. Barbara, we ain't never gonna have a Cadillac. Never. I don't like it. We ain't having a Cadillac. All preachers had Cadillac. He was destined to prove, I am not getting a Cadillac. And they went to Stockton to look for a car, and one of the brothers was with them and drove them down. And they went across the street to look at, I think, an Oldsmobile, because we had an Oldsmobile in those days. And Mom didn't see anything on the Oldsmobile lot that she liked. So the gentleman that was with them said, well, let's go across the street. So they went across the street and it was a Cadillac dealership. And Mom got up in there and she rolled up there and she sat all up in this Cadillac, and the gentleman said, Dad, call my father Dad, said, Dad, say, Mom likes that car. Oh, I don't care. Get what you want. Get what you want. Get what you want. Just get what you want. Now, he drove a Volkswagen. And I think he had a Volkswagen and a what? A Nova. That's what he drove. But when they came to church on Sunday, he never ever drove that Cadillac. He sat over in the passenger seat and he let Barbara drive the Cadillac. It's her car. He never drove. If y'all saw him, he was on a Volkswagen or a Nova. He just didn't like that bling. And he didn't want anybody to make over him. So that's this mitzvah. Little sidetrack there. Mitzvah 323. Bamidbar 5:12-15. The law of the unfaithful wife. Yahweh said to Moshe, tell the people of Israel, if a man's wife goes astray and is unfaithful to him, he is to bring his wife to the Kohanim, along with her offering for her, 2 quarts of barley flour on which he has not poured olive oil on or put frankincense, because it is a grain offering for jealousy, a grain offering for remembering, for recalling guilt of mind in the land. Can't be done here. Why can't it be done here? We don't have a Kohanim. The prohibition to put oil upon the offering of the unfaithful wife. He was to bring his wife to the Kohanim along with the offering for her, 2 quarts of barley flour, which he has not poured olive oil on or put frankincense, because it is a grain offering of jealousy, a grain offering for remembering, for recalling guilt of mind in the Messianic era. I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can relate this to in the Messianic era are people who just don't know. You know, they might not know. I mean, in the Messianic, for me, I remember something, okay? There are going to be people from the nations that are going to be there that have not learned Torah. Remember the word is, let us go up to Jerusalem for the Torah of the Most High is being taught. So if you arrive in the land with this conflicted mind, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? This is all going to play out. And you're going to get a chance to figure it out. And then the rule is going to be in place. Being unfaithful in the land. See, that's the reason why Torah has got to be a part of your soul now. As part of your soul now, you won't be conflicted with these ideas. Because your soul will have already, what we're teaching is downloaded on the hard drive of your soul, which will be reconnected and resonate within you, and you'll wake up, oh, I got that. I heard that somewhere. 325, Bamidbar 5:30, to fulfill the laws of jealousy. This is the law of jealousy, when either a wife under her husband's authority goes astray and becomes unclean, or the spirit of jealousy comes over a husband and he becomes jealous for his wife, then he is to place the woman before Yahweh, and the Kohanim is to deal with her in accordance with all this law. 326, Midbar 6, chapter 2, verse 4 through 4. The prohibition upon a Nazir to drink wine or any type of intoxicating beverage, eat grapes or raisin. So, this law is a law that will be implemented in the land. However, it can also be implemented in exile if you make a Nazirite vow. If anybody makes a Nazirite vow in exile, then this particular mitzvah would apply. What do you have to do? Tell the people of Israel, when either a man or a woman makes a special kind of vow, the vow of a Nazir, consecrating himself to Yahweh, he is to abstain from wine, other intoxicating liquor. He is not to drink vinegar from either source. He is not to drink grape juice, and he is not to eat grapes or raisins as long as he remains a Nazir. He is to eat nothing derived from grapevine, not even grape skins or seeds. Once again, if I look at the list that the Ashkenazis have, they've broken this all up into about 3 or 4 mitzvahs. But it's all in one text, so it's one mitzvah. Mitzvah number 327, prohibition for a Nazir to shave his hair during his entire term as being a Nazir. Throughout the period of his vow, the Nazir, he is not to shave. What did I say? Is to shave. It should have been not to shave his hair, excuse me. Until the end of the time for which he has consecrated himself from Yahweh. He is to be holy. He is to let the hair on his head grow long. So if I made a Nazirite vow, I'd have a big pork chop. Because the middle ain't nothing growing up here. Everything's going on the side. And this would be, I'd be woolly. Obligation for the Nazir to grow his hair. He is to let the hair on his head grow long. $329 by Midbar 6 and 6. He must not be under the same roof as a corpse. Throughout the period in which he has consecrated himself to Yahweh, he is not to approach a corpse. 330. A Nazir must not come in contact with the dead. He is not to make himself unclean for his father, mother, brother, or sister when they die, since his consecration to the Most High is on his head. Throughout the time of his being a Nazir, he is holy for Yahweh. 331, the Midbar chapter 6, verse 9. He must shave after bringing sacrifices upon the completion of his Nazirite period. If someone next to him dies very suddenly so that he defiles his consecration when he is to shave his head on the day of his purification, he is to shave it on the 7th day. Obligation for the Nazir to bring an offering to the tent of meeting. On the 8th day, he is to bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons to the Kohanim at the entrance of the tent of meeting, which would be, in our day, would be in the tabernacle, in the temple in the Messianic era. 633, chapter 6, verse 11, Ben Midbar, the obligation for the Kohanim to prepare the sin offering. The Kohanim is to prepare one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, and thus make atonement for him, inasmuch as he sinned because of the dead person. The same day he is to reconsecrate his head, he is to consecrate to Yahweh the full period of his being a Nazir by bringing a male lamb in his first year as a guilt offering. 334, the obligation for the Nazir to shave and bring his offering. Verses 13, chapter 6, 13 chapter 6, verse 13, 14, and 18. This is the law of the Nazarene. When his period of consecration is over, he is to be brought to the entrance of the tent of meeting, where he will present his offering to Yahweh, one male lamb in the first year without defect as a burnt offering, one female in his first year without defect as a sin offering, one ram without defect as a peace offering. Numbers chapter 6, verse 18, continuing, the Nazarene will shave his consecrated head at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Take the hair removed from his consecrated head, put it on the fire under the sacrifice of peace offerings, Shelamim offerings. 333, the obligation of the Kohen to bless the people every day. This is the Aaronic blessing in Numbers chapter 23 through 26. Yahweh said to Moshe, speak to Aaron and his sons, tell them that this is how you are to bless the people of Israel. It's the Aaronic blessing. 333, by Midbar chapter 7, verse 9, the Levites must transport the ark on their shoulders. But to the descendants of Kahat he gave none, because their duties involved the holy articles, which they carried on their own shoulders. And that's the conclusion of the Mitzvahs for presentation today. Hope you've learned something. I hope you've taken something in. And, I don't know why. And, well, I'm telling you why. Because these needs to be in our heart. They need to be in our spirit. So in the day when you need to know, you'll know. Once again, I invite you to tune in to our podcast by downloading the podbean.com and get the app, or look for Hebrews in Exile, as it's also on iPod. I say to you, Shalom. So as we come to conclusion today, we have one more Sabbath, and then in the week following that Sabbath, we will convene for a holy convocation, and we will celebrate the Feast of Trumpets right here in this house. Those of you who are brave enough and who are not conflicted with whatever ideas you might have about the COVID, we are a safe community. None of us in this house have been conflicted by it or with it. And you're welcome to come and celebrate the Feast of Trumpets with us on the seventh day of the seventh month on Yahweh's calendar and the ninth month on the Gregorian calendar, which happens to be September the 7th. We will more than likely be meeting around, 6 or 7? What time are we going to meet, class? What time you want to meet? Hello, talk to me, quick. I'm on the air. Huh? 6 o'clock. We'll be meeting at 6 o'clock. We'll be meeting here at 6 o'clock. You're welcome to come and join us for the Feast of Trumpets. Yevarekaka, Yahweh v'ishmereka. Ya'er Yahweh p'nai leka v'kanuka. Yasa Yahweh p'nai leka v'yasham l'ka shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine on you and show you his favor. May Yahweh lift up his face toward you and give you shalom. Until next time, may the peace of Yah be with you. Stay safe and love the Most High. Shalom.